They couldn't find two disappeared girls for 40 years until in 2013, someone found a strange car in the mud. High school students Cheryl Miller and Pamela Jackson were heading to an end-of-the-year party on May 29, 1971. They were following their friends who made the wrong turn. When they turned back, they decided to check the rear view, and the headlights from Cheryl and Pamela's car had disappeared. Officials immediately started investigating the case, but despite years of searching, they found no signs of two girls. Everybody was looking for the girls, and then, 4 decades later, they finally found out the answers. At the start of the investigation, all the shreds of evidence didn't seem reasonable. The girls didn't drink before getting in the car. In fact, they had been with Cheryl's grandmother in the hospital before joining their friends. There was also no sign of a car accident in that area as well, as no tracks indicating they had gone off the road. It all looked like the girls simply vanished into thin air. Also, an important thing was that in rural South Dakota in the early 1970s, missing child cases weren't the same case as they are nowadays. All the teenagers had free-spirited attitudes. Many disappeared kids simply decided to pack up and head for California without informing their relatives. Back then, if a kid turned up missing, it actually was far more likely that they were a runaway, recalled former Clay County Deputy Sheriff Jim Rowenhorst. It was just not very darned often that you heard about kids being kidnapped. It just wasn't something you were concerned about in rural South Dakota. Someone said yes to this theory, while those who knew Cheryl and Pamela were convinced that they just weren't the runaway type. Both girls were practical, and their classmates called them down-to-earth kind of girls. Moreover, according to Cheryl's older sister Kay, she left the house with only a purse that night. Even when the local authorities suspended the case, the girls' families and friends kept on searching. They looked over every ditch and ravine in the area, and Cheryl's father drove back roads for hours every day, calling out his darling daughter and her dear friend in despair. Over the years, when technology significantly improved, the authorities turned back to that place with ground-penetrating radar and metal detectors to look for the car. They even dug the gravel pit the two were headed to for the party, but to no avail. In 2004, the officials finally came to a break in the case when the South Dakota DCI Cold Case Unit was created. According to reports, that area was not far from the farm where a certain classmate of Cheryl and Pamela's had grown up. David Lycan, their classmate, was already 14 years into a 225-year prison sentence when authorities started investigating him. The man became the primary suspect due to his sadism, cruelty, and location of his farm. The authorities paid a visit to the Lycan farm. David's younger sister asserted she had seen family members burning a lot of evidence on the property years ago. When they looked into it, it appeared she was right. They had found 2 hubcaps underneath, dozens of bones buried beneath the property's septic tank, women's clothing, personal letters, a pair of rubber gloves, and a single red purse. Prosecutors added the murders of Cheryl Miller and Pamela Jackson to Lycan's charges with no hesitation. A prison informant even captured Lycan confessing to the murders on tape. However, soon after, it all fell apart, and the closed case became open again. It appeared later that the confession had actually been faked by one of Lycan's fellow prisoners. All the items found on the farm couldn't be directly connected with all the disappeared girls, and the bones turned out to be those of killed animals. All the charges against Lycan were dropped as there was no concrete proof. Everything seemed hopeless until 2013, when a local fisherman was walking along Brule Creek and bumped into a large shape sticking out of the water. The man was expecting to find a few rocks or something like that, but no, it was a rusted car sticking out from the mud. Police moved the car out of the creek, and it appeared to be a 1960s Studebaker Lark, the same make and model of Cheryl's car. Even though the remains were completely unidentifiable, there was one thing that managed to survive in the water for all these years. It was a purse inside of which the investigators found everything needed to prove it belonged to Cheryl. There were house keys, photos, and letters from friends, and the most important finding was the faded driver's license. The purse meant that the remains inside were those of the two missing girls. In 42 years, the case had finally been solved. There was still one question that couldn't let everybody breathe out. What had happened? An examination of the car showed it was in third gear when it smashed, and damage to one of the wheels was the sign that a tire may have blown. It appeared the vehicle had popped a tire, drove off the road, landed in Brule Creek, and went underwater. Even though the Miller and Jackson families don't know the exact cause, now they've finally found the remains of their beloved kids. "It's been so many years," said Cheryl's sister Kay. "It will be nice to have her home." But soon, their thoughts turned into a gray memory from the past, a newspaper extract from 2 years prior to their girls' fading.